Hi, this is Ms. Gonzalez, and today I'm going to go over topic 11, lesson 12. It is on equivalent fractions on a number line. Before we get started, you have to remember that equivalent means equal, and we're going to have to look at the denominators very carefully on these to decide whether we're going to use the multiplication method or the division method. So when we were in school, we wrote down the denominators of 2, 3, 4, 6, and 8. Now, remember, I had talked to you about that if the denominators were very small, like these, that you were to use the multiplication method to find an equivalent fraction. But if the denominators were large, like these over here, we are to use the division method in order to find equivalent fraction. The number 4 falls right in the middle, so you can use both multiplication or division to find your equivalent fraction. I'm going to go over the guided practice first, and then read the directions for the independent practice, and then we're going to look at some of the problems in the back and the problem solving. Let me go over these guided practice questions first, and then we'll move on. For questions 1 and 2, write two fractions that name the same location on the number line. Now, we already have the numbers listed on this number line, but we're missing this one. So all we have to do is check what there is and write this one in. 1, 6, 2, 6. Well, then this one would be 3, 6 because the next one that follows is 4, 6. So I'm going to write 3, 6 right here. And I'm also going to write it right here. But then I take a look at the denominator, and I'm going to follow the rule that I just talked to you about. The denominator is a large one, and large denominators we divide to find the equivalent fraction. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to use division to find the equivalent fraction. Now, I think of some of the numbers that I can divide by, and I cannot divide by 1. I cannot divide 3 by 2 because the numbers are too close. But I can divide 3 into itself like this. So 3 divided into 3, that equals to 1. And if I divide 6 by 3, then the answer is 2. So that's because 3 times 2 equals 6. So my answer here would be an equivalent fraction to 3 6 is 1/2. And if I look carefully, it is right at the half point. And that's the equivalent fraction. Now, number 2 is exactly like number 1. We're going to check the denominators. We're going to check what's already on our number line. I see 1/8, 2/8, 3/8, 4/8, 5/8. And so this one would be 6/8. Now, this time they gave us a little rule. They told us they wanted it to become a smaller fraction, or a smaller denominator actually, and it was going to become into fourths. So my answer here has to be in the fourth. Well, the way I'm going to make this fraction smaller is not by multiplying, because that would make it larger. I would divide. And it falls under my rule here that numbers with larger denominators we divide to find the equivalent fraction. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to write 6/8 here. Then I'm going to divide these. And I think carefully about what I could use. And I cannot divide by 1. I can divide by 2. But if I think carefully, I cannot divide by 3. And that's because down here, if I divide this one by 3, well, 8 is an even number. So I'm going to divide by 2. So I'm going to divide by 2. And just like the top, 6 divided by 2 equals 3. And then 8 divided by 2 equals 4, which follows the rule that they wanted here for us in the first place. They said they wanted it into fourth. Well, I created it into fourth. It is 3/4 now. Okay, this next question does not have our numbers for them. They want you to put in the numbers yourself. So to find that, you're going to have to leap. And it says complete the number line to show that 2 6 and 1/3 are equivalent fractions. So that's what I'm going to do. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So my denominator is 6 because it has 6 equal pieces. So now I'm going to write that in. 1 6, 2 6, 3 6, 4 6, and 5 6. I do not write 6 6 because at the end here, it would be 6, but that equals to 1. Any number divided into itself equals 1. Now they ask you, well, how are you going to make 2 6 into 1/3 and 4 6? Well, we need to find that one out. Well, first, let's do the 2 6. 2 6, and I follow my rule from before. It's a larger denominator, so I'm going to use division. And I'm going to divide by 2. I cannot divide by 1, and I cannot divide 2 by 3. So I'm going to go ahead and divide by 2. 2 divided into itself is 1, and 6 divided by 2 equals 3. So that's how they got that 1/3 up here. Now they want you to find the next one for 4 6. Well, I'm going to do this one right over here. And I do the same thing. I need to get that third because I already have the third there. So I'm going to divide because of the larger denominator again. And I'm going to divide this by 2 and this one by 2. And when I do that, this becomes 2/3. And I'm still following the same denominator. The answer is 2/3. Okay, the next one, number 4. Sheila makes a number line to see if two fractions are equivalent. She discovers that the fractions are not equivalent. How could Sheila tell? On this one, you need to use a complete sentence to answer this. And I'm going to do a sentence starter for you. Sheila can tell that fractions are not, like they said here, are not equivalent. And remember, I'm not finishing the sentence for you. You need to complete the sentence. When I write ... that means you finish the sentence. And remember, she would want to see about two fractions and on a number line. So you can tell me about how you can tell two fractions are not equal on a number line. Now, when we go down here to questions 5 through 8, those look exactly like number 2. So I'm going to go ahead and put these are like number 2. So if you want to go back to number 2 and check how that's done, you can check over here. And remember, you must use either the division or the multiplication to find your answer. And I'm noticing all of these have large denominators. So for all of them, you're going to use division to figure out your answers. I'm going to move on to the back here. And this is a group of mixed problem solving. And I was looking at all of this, and some of them are two-step problems. Some of them are multiplication problems, division problems. They're just mixed up. There's even some fractions back here. So I'm going to read through them really quickly. And then we're going to figure out some algorithms for them. Bradley had 40 slices of pizza to share. How many pizzas did he have? Now he had, that means there is a total here, 40 slices. He has a total of 40 slices, but he has to share them. When I saw that word back when we were in class, we talked about how many multiplication and division problems had the word each, but when we said equal shares, equal number, it made that question division. And notice it does not have a second number. That's because the second number is right here. It says each of Bradley's pizza was cut into 8 slices. And there's that word each. But I told you that each does not always mean multiplication, especially when they said to share. So because this word here, share, is there, it overpowers multiplication. And so I have my total, 40 divided by 8. Is going to give me the amount of pizzas. So that's your algorithm. You go ahead and figure out the answer. And if you do not know the opposite operation, then you can simply draw pictures. Draw 8 groups or draw and count to 40. You can do the pictures as well. Okay, now I'm going to go over this one. This one says Sandra drew a number line to show 6. And there it is. They're all 6. But this is a not question. So remember, you're not looking for the right answer. You're looking for the wrong answer. So what fraction is not equivalent to 3/6? Okay, so we're going to do the same thing as we did before. But remember, you're not looking for the right answer. You're looking for the wrong answer. So I'm going to start with 3/6 right here. And automatically, I see it is a large denominator. Because it's a large denominator, I'm going to use division. So I use division, and I could actually divide 3 by 3 and 6 by 3. And when I do that, I get 1/2. So I see the right answer right here, but that's not the one that I want. What I want you to do now is take this 1/2 and generate. In other words, create fractions that are equivalent to 1/2 by using multiplication, and you're going to find the rest of the answers. Continue to multiply until you found all the rest of the answers, and then you're going to find the one that's not equivalent to it. So use multiplication, and the reason I'm using multiplication is because the half is a small denominator. Now let's get to number 11. It says Yonita has 28 different apps on her computer. Casey has 14 music apps and 20 game apps on the computer. Which equation can you solve to find how many more apps and Casey has than Yonita? Okay, so I'm noticing something here. I'm noticing that Yonita has the 28 different apps. It doesn't say which kind. And it says she has. So that already has a total for Yonita. But Casey's different because she has 14 music and 20 of the game apps. But notice there's that word and right here. So that's a combination statement right there. Now I read this and I notice something else. I notice that it says the words more and than. But I know Yonita's number, but I don't know Casey's number. So it is a two-step problem. So I'm going to go ahead and put the two-step problem right here. And first I'm going to figure out Casey. So this one's going to be for Casey. And Casey said that you need to add. So I'm going to use addition. Now I'm going to set you up, but you figure out the problem, the final answer. Okay, and then when I saw more and than, that automatically means subtraction. So I'm noticing here that the answer has to deal with one of these algorithms. So once you figure out both of the algorithms, then you may go ahead and see which one matches. Now, I already used 14 and I used 20. Notice that you have not used 28. That's the number we're going to use some subtraction there. All right, let's move on to the next one. This is a strip diagram here, but let's see what they want us to do with the strip diagram. Miss Owen has 15 magazines to share among 5 students for an art project. Now, this one sounds like the one up there with the pizza. They have 15 magazines. That's the total. I see it right there. There's that word has. But notice it says sharing again. And this time, it's 5 students. Okay, and it says how many magazines will each student get? And again, there's that word each. But remember, that doesn't mean multiplication all the time if the word sharing or equal shares is in the question. And it is. It's right there. They've already done your strip diagram for you, so you have to work out the algorithm. So I have the 2 numbers already that I need. And remember, sharing means divide. So I have my numbers. Now I'm going to find this answer. And you may use the opposite operation to figure out the answer. Okay, then we get to this one of number sense. This one says you have to draw number lines and show whether 3/8 and 2/4 are equivalent. Okay, so you're going to draw a number line for 3/8. So I'm going to write 3/8 for this one. And you're going to draw a number line just as nice and as equal as this one. And this one's going to represent 2/4. Now, all number lines start with 0 and end with 1 because it equals 1 whole and in fractions. Okay, so the first one is 3/8, and to do 3/8, I cut it in half. Then I cut those in half again like this. But notice that's 4th. And it's a good idea because the bottom is in 4th to just transfer the lines at exactly the same spot. Now I'm going to cut these in half to make 8s because remember the one on top has to be 8. So cut those in half as best you can, as neat as possible. And now I have my 2 number lines. Now you're going to find 3/8 on this one. You're going to find 2/4 on that one. Make sure you put a dot where the number is, and then you can tell which one's larger. And you may color in the area once you're done. That's how you do number 13. Let's look at number 14. Number 14 says to construct again. And it says, how can you tell just by looking at fractions that 2/4 and 3/4 are not equivalent? You can do the same thing you did on number 13. Construct two number lines like this. Started with 0, end with 1 at the same spot. And one will represent 2/4 and the other one 3/4. And it's asking you, how do you know they are not equivalent? You're going to write me a short statement here. Okay, they are not, and you continue, equivalent. And then you say because, and you can continue writing down here. I'm not going to complete the sentence for you. That's what you're going to do at home. But finish the number lines and check to see why they are not equivalent or if they are equivalent. Now we're going to the last one here. It says Fiona and Gabe each had the same length of clay. Fiona used 2/3 of the clay. Using 6, what fraction of the length of clay will Gabe need to use to match the amount Fiona used? Draw number lines as part of your answer. Okay, so it's saying here to draw a number line again. So Fiona used 2/3 of the clay, but notice Gabe is using 6. Okay, so make sure you draw a number line that represents Fiona. I'm going to call this one Fiona, and we'll use here this bottom part for Gabe. And remember, Fiona is using 2/3. And Gabe is using 6. So if you want to find out the equivalent fraction, you can check the denominator here and make your own equivalent fraction, and then you'll know which one is Gabe. What is going to give me that 6 for Gabe? 3 times a number and 2 times a number. Remember, they have to be the same number. Gabe has 6. Okay, so go ahead and figure that one out and then draw your number line and fill it in. Okay, that's how you work on Lesson 12 in Unit 11. Thank you for listening.